it going, everyone? This is your Astrology Horoscope for Tuesday, July 16, 2024. I'm astrologer Alex Skyles, and welcome to the Moon Base. Hope you guys are doing amazing. Good to be back. I've had so much work and home stuff going on, so thanks for being patient. I'll always be here as long as the energy allows me to be. I've been working since 9:30. It's 1:11 right now, and I've had like 2 breaks today. Just to give you an idea of where I'm at. So I'm getting caught up. Mars is at 26 degrees, obviously, with this Mars-Uranus conjunction we just had, and my ascendant's 29. So Mars is trying to come out of my 12th, and it's been like quicksand, just fucking, But I'm here, and I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate everybody. A lot of people reached out, like, you all right? I'm fine. Sometimes with these 12th house transits like this, if you have 12th house placements like that, it's like, sometimes it's hard to be out in the physical world. With Mars being so physical and then Taurus, having a Taurus 12th house, it's like, man, it could be very difficult to move through the physical world, and when Mars crosses your rising, comes into your first house, your physical energy is revitalized, and, here towards the end of the week, going into next week, I'll be on a whole different frequency, and I'll be able to push through all the difficult things, because the Jupiter square Saturn, too, is really making it difficult to, the Jupiter square Saturn is very challenging when you're trying to get shit done, especially with Saturn and Pisces, and it's like you have all these big ideas and it's like, fuck, you just have to take it slow, one little teeny tiny piece at a time. And even if it feels like you're not really going anywhere fast, right? Even though we are, it may not feel like it right now, and it may feel like that as Jupiter's building towards the square with Saturn, where it's like, everything I'm doing, and it's like, it's not. It is. We got to remember that as we're going through Jupiter square Saturn, that what we are doing in this time is expansive, and it is going to prosper in the world. It's just going to take a lot more effort. It's going to take a lot more hours. It's going to take a lot more sacrifice. Saturn in Pisces is teaching us that we have to sacrifice something in order to expand, right? That's what this Jupiter square Saturn is all about. So we just went through this Mars-Uranus conjunction. It was just really, I just want to start off and say this. It was really cool to see how people responded to this Mars-Uranus algol conjunction. It was really, really, really cool to see how on my social media platform, just the collective, because that's our window into the collective, is social media, right? It was really cool to see that people were on the same page with the astrology, right? Even people who aren't necessarily astrologers, who love astrology, who are sharing astrology. I see it all. If we follow each other on Instagram, I see everyone's shit, And it was like, oh, we knew it. We said it. We knew it was coming. There's not one astrologer friend of mine who didn't say this. We all knew. We all said that. We said, I remember about, it was the 27th. It was around the debate. When they were going to do that presidential debate at the end of June. And Trump got the 34 counts of the trial, the whole Trump trial thing, and he got found guilty or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I was like, well, the debate's coming up. And I got really inspired to look at his chart again. And I know his chart, but I didn't really apply it to the Mars Uranus. And about 3 weeks ago, it wasn't, I guess 2.5, almost 3 weeks ago, I was like, holy shit. Like, I said it out loud. The intern was in here. He knows nothing of astrology. I was like, they're going to try to kill him. They're going to, we've been talking about it. It's kind of been like there's a possibility. It was just a few weeks ago. I was like, man, like I feel it. My buddy Evan Grimm, who's probably everybody here knows, great astrologer, great friend of mine. We play music together. We were talking about this, and he's been talking about it for a while, and it was like, a shared agreement. Yeah, like this is very much probably what's going to go down. Even people who aren't claiming to be astrologers on the internet, just like, look at this, sharing the astrology. Like, see, like, look, Mars Uranus square his Mars. With many other things, he's got Chiron squaring his Saturn. There's many other things. Of course, Chiron in Aries, the head. Chiron, the wound. He's got trauma to the head. Now he's the wounded martyr, right? He's got to keep fighting the battle, keep pushing forward, right? That's what Chiron is all about. So it was just, what I took from this shit the most was to see that the astrology is really starting to plant itself into the collective, because in 2020, 2018, 2019, it was starting to get there, but astrology wasn't necessarily out in the open like it is now. That was the beginning. And it was 2019, 2020, when all that shit went down, that I think what I see looking back, it was that moment where it opened the door for people to branch out and have time to think. And, now we see astrology is really, made its mark in the world. So it was really cool to see people expressing it in that way, because it was in 2020 where we didn't see that happen, where it was like, oh, see, the astrology, like I told you, we didn't see that in 2020. We just saw like people like, oh my God, but then, you had fucking David Palmer fucking telling you all for over a year, for a decade, really. And then everyone thought he was crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, man, like I knew something was gonna happen in 2020. Even in 2011, I was saying that, but I didn't, astrology doesn't lie. Like it's always on the mark. Always. And with Uranus and Mars, it's even like, it's just bam. And it is all about the buildup, with these conjunctions. It's like really what happens like before, the actual conjunction. But yeah, in 2019, like people were not on that level of like, oh, see the astrology, like Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, conjunction on the South Node. Like, nobody was in 2020 was like, oh, see, I told you so, the astrology. With this, 6 years later, it's like, oh, the majority of the people I see on my Instagram are like, oh, see, I told you, like, like, that's the coolest shit ever to me, because that's how I personally learned astrology, was looking at events that happened in the world and looking at the astrology. That's how I really began to understand it outside of, oh, I'm a Aries sun. I fucking, I like red. I don't. I like red, but you know what I mean? Like just the basic shit of like, really understanding the movement and the cycles and the actual language and the meaning behind it, right? And of course, Mars, Uranus on Algol. It's just so spot like that. I got, like with Jupiter transits and Saturn transits and outer planet transits, like the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Okay, those are two outer planets. Like, we're gonna see the effects of those transits and conjunctions and aspects. Like, those aren't necessarily on a personal level, like on a physical, emotional level, right? Those are more on the higher realms of our existence, right? When we have Mars or Venus or Mercury come into contact with outer planets like this, it's like, it becomes really personal, really quick. Of course, with Uranus, it's going to happen really fast. And it did. Just within 2 days before the exact conjunction, which was yesterday, we saw the event that took place that now has ended, 2020. This is how I'm feeling about it. Like, where 2020 pulled the collective into, like that frequency, we've kind of been on that, and I didn't even realize it, especially with Neptune retrograde, Saturn. It's like we've been on a frequency that we haven't necessarily fully realized yet. With this Mars Uranus, it was an awakening. Uranus is the great awakener, out of shock. So what I'm really feeling is that, it's kind of shocked us out of that old frequency that kind of came on the collective in 2020 with the whole thing. In 2021, 22, 23, last year, it's like we kind of all, even though we're out of the fucking pandemic shit and the whatever, all that stuff, it's like where that kind of herded the sheep, we've kind of been in that cage. This Mars-Uranus conjunction has shattered that. It's like people have broken free. People are now free to express their feelings and express themselves how they want to express themselves. And I'm seeing it, feeling it, and this is what happened. This is exactly what happened the last Mars-Uranus conjunction in Taurus at 26 degrees, February 1942. Okay. That was the conjunction, the Mars-Uranus conjunction at 26 degrees, the same degree that this Mars-Uranus conjunction just happened yesterday. And by the way, I looked over 1,000 years. I couldn't find another Mars-Uranus conjunction at 26 degrees of Taurus. If you can find it, let me know. I couldn't find it, but it was 1942, February 1942, when we had this same exact conjunction on Algol. What happened? What happened before that? What was the buildup? December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, shock. Bam. All of a sudden, what do we see? People who are just living their normal lives, now they're awake. They know where they stand, right? They're in themselves more. And what happened? Like, it was like the patriotism in America skyrocketed. People wanted to volunteer for the war. Women went to work in the factories while the men went to war. It was like, people stood the fuck up and were like, nope, this is my role. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. It's like that Uranian, like, we're on a team. It's like a football team. It's like, this is your role. This is your role. This is your role. Uranus or Aquarius is like a football team or a sports team, and Leo is like the quarterback, the star of the team, right? But it was, if in 1942, that buildup of Pearl Harbor in December and then January 1942, February 1942, it was when Mars came into Taurus, we started to see the buildup. And it was in January 1942. Because the exact conjunction was March 1st, 1942. But when Mars came into Taurus, we started to see the buildup. Pearl Harbor. Okay. And then in February, as Mars started getting closer to Uranus, we saw the president pass an executive order to put all American Japanese in concentration camps. That was the last Mars-Uranus conjunction. Pearl Harbor, putting Japanese in concentration camps, and then bam, March 1st, the exact conjunction happens, and then what do you know? Now World War II is full-blown. America is full-blown in World War, and the world in America, or the United States, before Pearl Harbor, and that Mars-Uranus conjunction, the frequency was, of course, we knew, in America, what Hitler was doing and all that shit, and, what was going on in Europe and Poland and France and all that stuff. So, but, in typical American fashion, it's like, well, out of sight, out of mind, until it's right on your fucking doorstep. And then that Mars-Uranus just, oh, I'm awake now. The Great Awakener. And with Mars, the god of war, intensity, action, forward motion, aggression, it's a malefic planet. Uranus is more neutral to me. It's not, I don't feel like it's a malefic or benefic. It's like the higher octave of Mercury, right? It does what it does, and it's for an evolutionary purpose. And its purpose is to shock and create change and experiment and try new things and, connect new ideas and new thoughts, and also break old patterns. And that's what this Mars-Uranus conjunction just did collectively. It broke an old pattern. It broke an old frequency that we were on. And maybe that some of us didn't even realize that we were still in, even though consciously we're like, no, that's in the past, no. I think unconsciously and subconsciously we've been repressing some of that because that's what we do with the trauma or, just the past in general. But now it's like this Mars-Uranus is helping us break through those shackles because that whole 2020 thing put this invisible psychological cage around us. And now we're not going back to that place. There's no fucking way. And if there was any effort to push into that place, it'll be chaos. Uranus is chaos. So the strength and the confidence, there's been this resurgence, right? Mars is all about confidence and strength and ego and competition. It's like Mars is charged the fuck up right now by Uranus, So let's just, we went on about that for a minute, but let's just talk about today because this moon in Scorpio today is going to make a square to Mercury and then will oppose Mars and Uranus and Algol. We can throw that in there. Algol is an important player in this conjunction as well, obviously. Because it is the fixed stars where we see, when there's conjunctions or aspects, really conjunctions like this on the fixed stars, it's you really see really heavy, intense shit play out. And of course, we have Jupiter on Aldebaran opposing Antares. Let me just go here real quick. Antares, right, is a master. If you go read about Antares is a master war strategist, right? Pearl Harbor was done right around the Sun Antares conjunction. John Lennon was Antares rules assassinations, right? By a plan, by a strategic plan. I'm not just saying that. Go fucking read about Antares, okay? It's a strategic plan, and Antares executes that strategic plan at the highest level, right? How much of this is planned? Who fucking knows? You can make our own assumptions here. Looking at the astrology, Neptune, Saturn in Pisces, retrograde, Jupiter on Aldebaran, opposing in Taurus. There's a plan. There's something. There's more going on behind the scenes. Okay. Mercury is going to be giving us a really difficult message this week, right? And I think today we're going to feel it emotionally, like really hardcore, because we're going to be not only with this moon opposing Uranus, we're going to be able to look at this Mars-Uranus conjunction, what the fuck we just went through, what just happened. Today's the day where we get to reflect on it, because the moon's on the other side. And we may be feeling certain emotional things that we may not understand yet, that some of these things are bringing up within us. It may be like a purging of like, okay, we're moving into the next phase. Like the old world's not, like we're not, there's not a chance of going back to that. There's not a chance. We are going forward now. Even though Saturn's retrograde, we have Jupiter square Saturn that's coming on. We're moving forward with real intensity and passion and assurance. We're reassured. I think this Mars-Uranus reassured the collective that we have to fucking take our own stance and fucking do it ourselves, and make our own decisions. And this Mercury in Leo squaring the moon today and will square over to Mars-Uranus this week. It's like when things get hot and intense and emotional, it's like you still got to speak your truth. You still got to use your own voice, I think there's going to be some information this week that's going to come out. And today something might get triggered too, some information that might affect people emotionally, like in a really intense way. But there's definitely going to be some information, more information that's going to come out as Mercury begins its square to this Mars-Uranus conjunction. There's going to be some information. There's things going on behind the surface, behind the scenes that we can't fully understand yet. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on right now. We have to get into all those details, but all in all, it was just really, really cool to get a glimpse with this Mars-Uranus of where the collective stands on the level of awakening. Not just, where we stand politically. Like, that's not where I'm at. I'm not a politics dude, but I pay attention to everything going on. I don't attach my feelings or emotions to it. I'm Saturn in Aquarius. I'm very detached from, difficult things. I do have the ability to look at very difficult things and information and not attach my feelings to them. And, that's not an easy thing not an easy place to always be. Aldous Huxley or George Orwell, my bad. Two amazing writers, legends. One of George Orwell's final interviews, which always, every time I watch it, I'm really inspired. He wrote 1984, if you didn't know that. On his deathbed, he died of tuberculosis, actually. And his final interview, which really, there's not many interviews that were, videoed or recorded of him. But this one was him laying in bed. He's dying. He can't move. And the interviewer asked him, he's like, how do you think about all these things? He's like, and all he could say is, I just have this extreme ability to receive and filter the most difficult, harshest information where most people aren't. You start going into very difficult things, some people's heads explode, right? I try to keep these horoscopes pretty light, not get into, but it's hard with what the fuck this Mars-Uranus conjunction is. It's hard to separate what's going on in just the astrology. But like I said, looking at the astrology, looking at the world, this is, a great way to understand it. This is how I've learned. And of course, this is always the proof in the pudding. The astrology, once again, does not fail. And it was cool. Like I say, I'll just say it one more time. It was just cool to see people in the spiritual community, obviously, not everybody's on the same page, but even people who are on opposing sides, we're all like, yeah, we all felt and knew some shit like this was going to go down. So it was a moment where people in the astrology community, in the spiritual community, kind of, are on the same page for a second, despite our opinions and beliefs and whatever. When it comes to the astrology, it's like we're all on the same page, just about, None of us were like 100%. You can never be 100% sure. It's like, playing golf, which is hilarious. Trump's actually a fucking good golfer. But it's like playing golf. It's like, you hit the ball, like, unless you're incredibly skilled and you can control, there's only a certain amount of control you can have in golf, right? In baseball, you can really have control over the ball. Or with football, you can really have control. Like with golf, there's a lot of faith involved in golf. Wow, I never thought of that. Golf and faith. That's interesting. There's a lot of faith involved. It's like, oh, I hope this ball lands in the right spot. Right? So it is kind of like with predictions and stuff. It's like golf. And it's like, well, I'm just going to hit this here. This feels right. So it was just really cool to see that. I got really excited. But anyway, the Queen of Cups reversed. How did this makes me feel? Like now that Mars has crossed Uranus, right? I feel this like extreme masculine energy. Queen of Cups reversed. That's like all of a sudden like kind of like some meathead shit, right? It's just really wild because I'm driving down fucking the studios in Hollywood, in North Hollywood, and I'm driving down Laurel Canyon, and fucking some guy with his daughter, who's maybe 11 or 12, was driving in this convertible Cadillac, right? And they both had MAGA hats on, and he had a fucking American flag on the back and a Trump flag on the back, huge. And I was driving yesterday to go somewhere, and I saw him, and I was like, oh, shit. I gave him a little honk. I was like, America, fuck yeah, And then I was coming back, and I saw him again. The guy was just driving around with his daughter just to show off his flag. You would never see that in L.A. You would never see that in Los Angeles. Even though there are people here who love Trump and shit, it's great. But you don't see people express it outwardly in Los Angeles. It's not like a thing. So to see that, it's like, it just shows you like, it's like, I don't give a fuck what you think, right? Which is very much like Queen of Cups energy to me, where it's like, it's the queen, she's the boss, but in a less emotional way, like a more masculine kind of vibe. To me, this is when it's upright, it is more of that feminine water flowing energy. But what this is making me feel like is like this, it's just this intensity that's ramping up, that ramped up. And definitely with the moon in Scorpio today, emotions and feelings are going to be ramping up even more with Mercury squaring the moon in Scorpio. It's just like, yeah, you know where I'm coming from. So it's really like, it's just clear that we're not going back to the frequency that we were on 4 days ago. Like, we are playing a whole new song, right? No more of whatever the tune that we were playing last week. It's a different world now. It's crazy. Once again, with Neptune and Saturn retrograde, how much of it's real? How much of it's true? How much of it is organic? Because I know the damn vegetables at the fucking grocery store, they say they are, but they ain't. They're not organic a lot of the times, even though it says it is. Very Neptune Pisces. And that whole thing started happening during the Neptune Pisces. People started thinking organically. It's like, oh, I guess I should buy organic food, real food, right? That was Neptune and Pisces. So, and now the whole grocery store thing is getting even more complicated. You really don't know, So, I'm never trying to make my conclusions or like, this is what it is. So, like as an astrologer, like you just can't be that way because it's constantly shifting and changing and morphing. There never is one way. There never is a guarantee. Like, like I said, you make a prediction with astrology, it's like golf. It's like, even though your feeling and your intuition knows where it wants to go, and that ball knows it needs to go into that fucking hole, like, to get there on the first swing is a complete act of faith. And a lot of people got this one right. A lot of people, even people who have nothing to do with astrology. I mean, it was just like we all collectively felt that this was coming, that this was going to happen. And now that it did and it went down the way it did, if it would have went the other way and he actually got his head blown the fuck off, I don't know. It's hard to fathom what that world would be, Chaotic. It'd be a lot more chaotic. I feel this like a hoorah, I don't give a fuck energy. Very punk rock. Uranus, Aquarius is very punk rock to me. That Aquarian energy is the essence of what punk rock is. Going against the grain, going against the status quo, going against what is normal, right? Now people are like, yeah, I'm going to drive through fucking LA with my 11-year-old daughter with my MAGA hats on and my convertible with my American flag and my Trump flag. Like Trump is like a punk rock dude. No, he's like punk rock. Like, it's weird. Like, it's so strange. But that's Uranus. It's fucking weird. It's not normal. What's right or wrong or what's good and bad, that's up for the individual to decide, right? And that's where, the opposite of Aquarius or Uranus, Leo, which Trump is a Leo rising, Leo Mars, he's, he is the individual within the group, right? Leo is like, like I'm the star, right? It's like, well, you always need that one person or that one event or that one trigger moment or that one exchange with another person that triggers you, that really just throws you out of your comfort zone and out of everything that was normal, and that you now will never be that person or what you were before. That's what I'm really starting to realize with Uranus. I think this year, 2024, has been a very good lesson to understand Uranus a lot more. And Uranus has been hitting my chart since 2011. Being an Aries sun, Mercury, being a Taurus rising, Venus, like, I've been dealing with Uranus for 15 fucking years now. Hitting all of my personal planets. All of them. So, it's been a nice crash course on the nature of Uranus. And it's just really cool to see, once again, I'll say it, it's cool to see how the collective responded to this, or the spiritual and astrological community. It was really, really interesting. It wasn't that way 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's a whole different world now. So I'm going to end this here. It's good to be back. I know the past few weeks haven't been 100% consistent. When I can't, if I don't make a video, just know that there is something in my work area that is holding me back from being able to do it. And then, because what happens is, I'll just be honest, like when I get into the daily work that I need to do, actually, when I get to the studio, I try to do the horoscope when I first sit down, first thing, before I start on my other work. That's the first thing I do, you know. And usually, like, if, you know, I can only do, honestly, even doing 3 readings a week with everything else has been hard. So doing 2 a week has been doable, but, you know, it is. Like, I try to do the horoscope before I do anything else. Past few weeks, I've been able to do that. I've had to get straight to the studio and get into the work. People are here. You know, I'm up till this fucking time. I never stay up this late. In the past 15 years, I've never stayed up this late. I'm always in bed by 10, 11. So I've had nights over the past 2-3 weeks. I'm here till 5 a.m. and it's just like, get 2 hours of sleep. It's like, holy shit. So that's all it is. There's nothing insane. I need things at home too that are really intense. But I appreciate everybody. A bunch of people sent me messages like, hey, what's going on? I appreciate that people give a shit and like actually want to hear my perspective and that it can be helpful or useful in people's daily lives. So, and it helps me, like, you know, not doing a horoscope and putting it out to the world each day. It's like the astrology is kind of sitting in my brain. You know, I'm looking at the chart every day, but what good is that? Just looking at it for myself, right? So it's helpful for me to do these things to understand it even more and to share it. So I love doing it. Absolutely. But doing 1,000 fucking things at once, sometimes it's hard. So I appreciate people understanding and even being concerned. That means a lot to me. So I'm cool. I'm good. I'm just a little overworked, a little overwhelmed, and waiting patiently. I'm not waiting. I'm doing. I'm fucking doing. And there's no waiting over here. But when Mars comes out of my 12th house, I'm fucking stoked for that. So no more quicksand after that. So anyway, I will see you all on Wednesday. Have a great day. Today's definitely a day to reflect on the Mars-Uranus conjunction with the moon making its opposition, squaring over to Mercury. Definitely some intense feelings and emotions and some realizations, you know, and I think there can be even a deeper awakening that can unfold today. So I'll leave it at that. I'll see y'all tomorrow and have a wonderful day. Peace.